Because in all seriousness, I literally had no idea for this whatsoever.
You had no idea at all.
None. Like, do you know how frustrating it is just to stare at the screen for like 3.5 hours trying to figure out how to introduce a book?
I mean...
Do you want to know what Clint Eastwood and zombies have in common?
What do they have in common?
Absolutely nothing.
Green Willow Books released Devils Unto Dust in April of 2018. The debut novel of Emma Berquist, this novel blends horror and Western tropes beautifully, leaving us rooting for our protagonist while still being completely aware of the dangers that the Wild West has to offer. A little under 500 pages, set in the late 1800s and in the fictional town of Glory, Texas, we follow Willie Wilcox and her family as they struggle to make ends meet. With a dead mother and a deadbeat father, it's really hard for Willie to look after her 3 younger siblings, and things only get worse when a local ruffian comes in and claims that Willie's father, who they haven't seen in years, stole $400. With nowhere else to turn, that's when Willie meets the Garrett brothers, 2 green hunters who are willing to help go to Best, Texas to try and track down her father and hopefully the money. The strongest part of this novel is definitely the protagonist and the setting. To start, our main narrator, Willie, is both flawed and relatable for the reader. She isn't any kind of wallflower. She's bitter, has dry wit, and is definitely not willing to take any flack lying down. She shoulders an immense amount of responsibility looking after her younger siblings, and it shows through her inner monologues and her actions. Still, she's not all piss and vinegar, and her inner monologues also show a softer, more fragile side, really rounding out the character into a relatable protagonist.
Is this because we broke the plate? Catherine looks like she's fighting back tears, and something inside me twists. No, Kath, it ain't about the plate, I say gently. We're sorry. We won't break things no more. Please don't leave. It was Micah's fault, Calvin says, glaring at Micah accusingly. I'm not trying to punish you. I'm leaving to find Pa, I explain. Don't you want me to find him? No, Kath says, her face screwed up tight. You don't mean that, I tell her. Yes, I do. He's never here anyhows. Micah, tell Willie she can't go, Calvin orders. Enough, both of you, I tell them. This is not up for discussion. I'm leaving tomorrow, and that's the end of it. I hate you, Catherine says, and pushes her chair away from the table. She runs outside, slamming the door behind her. Calvin follows his twin loyally, his small shoulders hunched. They took it well, Micah says from across the table. I sigh and cover my face with my hands. You gonna start in again? He shrugs stiffly, poking at the last of his beans. Why should I? It won't make no difference. You're going whether I like it or not, so I won't waste my breath. Micah, it ain't like I planned this, I say angrily. I don't want to leave. Liar.
However, a good protagonist isn't enough. The world where Willie and her friends grew up in, and we get to experience through the novel, is definitely one of the main highlights. We're never given total exposition on what's going on in the world, but instead get to see through encounters, interactions, and dialogue.
From the Homestead Road, I see the Garrett brothers walking, and just like that, I feel woefully outgunned. It's one thing to know you're hiring hunters, and another to see them decked out like the cavalry. Curtis has 2 long-nosed revolvers at his hips, and a bandolier slung across his chest, the cartridges shining like so many rows of teeth. The hilt of a saber juts up from his back, and his throat and forearms are covered with thick leather guards. Benjamin, too, is wearing the leather guards, and a wide-brimmed hat tugged low over his forehead. He's carrying a revolver at his waist, and a rifle on his back, the sun glinting off the polished metal. Best of all, in one hand he's got the lead of a shaggy gray mule loaded with supplies. Where'd you find that piece of crow bait? I call, walking to meet them. You hush, Curtis answers, patting the mule's nose. Nana here is the finest pack animal that ever was. Show some respect to your elders. The Garretts come to a halt, and the mule eyes me with disinterest. "Howdy, Nana," I say, and she gives me a slow blink. I didn't think there were any soft animals left. Never thought I'd be so happy to see a mule. She's too tough even for the shakes to take. "Load her up, then," Curtis says, and I hand him my bedroll and sack to add to Nana's packs.
The West here is extremely wild. Between the dust storms, the lack of water, the fact that there isn't a lot of wildlife, and then you get to add zombies into the mix. While the Z word is never specifically stated in the novel, instead being referred to as shakes by the narrator and everybody else who lives there, they're essentially wild western zombies. These creatures live outside the outskirts of town, trying to get into the fortified areas where all the living people are, and they spread their infection through bite and contamination through blood, spit, and other body fluids. If you enjoyed Erin Bowman's Vengeance Road, or Delilah S. Dawson's The Shadows series, then this book is perfect for you. All of them have strong female leads, the Old West, and some element of fantasy, science fiction, or at the very least where reality is bent just a little bit so the protagonists are going to do okay. This book has all your favorite parts of a Western, from the unforgiving landscape to tough-as-nails protagonists, shootouts, and scary desperados, while also combining it with horror stuff with zombies. For young adult readers, it tackles that scary topic of growing up whether you're ready or not, and what it means to step up to the plate when stuff isn't going your way. There's also that element of fear of leaving something familiar behind, whether you're ready or not for it, and what that can mean for you as you try to grow as a person. But Willie and young readers can learn that they're not alone, sometimes finding help from people all over the place. Sometimes it's help from your family, like how Willie finds help from her brother Micah, or from family friends, like the local doctor's son Sam, or even unexpected places, like the Garrett brothers, who end up being more reliable and definitely worth their money by the end of the book. Check this book out at your local library, or wherever books are sold.